You're listening to the Becoming More Me podcast with me, Theresa Lear Levine. You're already enough, but if you're anything like me, you thrive when you're stretching, creating, and aligning with the person you feel called to be, and creating greater calm, clarity, and confidence in your life, as well as room for pleasure and expansion. Through amazing stories, conversations, and offerings, this podcast is here to inspire and support you. Get ready to release the negative, reinforce the positive, and elevate our consciousness and vibe together as we tap into our limitless potential to transform and grow. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Becoming More Me. Today, my guest is Arianne, and I'm so excited that she's here. She's a holistic business coaching consultant, and she's been helping me with some of the marketing for launching my book that's coming out this fall, Becoming More Me. So when I met her, I could just tell that we were going to have, she's going to have awesome information to share with you guys that you guys are going to gobble up. And I wanted to invite her here to have a chat. So Ari is a quick thinking, solution-based yogini. She's the creator of Biz Yogi, which is an online platform for creative gypsy souls to find their voice in their business so that they can create bigger impact in the world. She believes that there is nothing more exciting than finding passion and being free to travel and work anywhere. She's also the author of The Abundant Yogi, and she owns and runs the Yoga Expo, which is the largest indoor yoga and wellness expo in the United States. So many cool things that you have going on, Ari. Thank you so much for being here today.
Absolutely. Thank you. Beautiful platform and amazing audience.
Thank you. So I always like to start with just learning a little bit about you. And I know with your story, there's something to know about where you come from and where you live now and how that's affected your journey. So could you clue us into that to begin with?
Absolutely. So I was born in Peru back in the day, and actually we moved here to Miami when I was 9, and probably around 1985. The country went into really tumultuous times. There was a terrorist group called the Shining Path that was just wreaking havoc. They're terrorists. They're just doing terrorist things. But also we had an inflation rate of over 1,500%.
Wow.
So everything from your daily staples got just insanely expensive. Medicine was nowhere to be found. And bless my parents, they were born with 2 fairly sick children, both my brother and I, and my daughter and my nephew. We have a immune system deficiency, which is it just compromises our immune system so that we're very, I like to say I don't like to give power to that, but
yeah, we're always being recreated, right?
Always being recreated, exactly. So I'm like epigenetics all the way. But lots of infections, especially when you're a little one, and there was no medicine. You have 2 kids with 103, 104 fever with some sort of infection, and there's no medicine. So my parents made the tough choice to leave our entire lives. And, we have a very beautiful family down there, extended family, and moved to the United States because here we had safety and medicine and a lot more important opportunities.
Yeah.
Awesome. So that's, definitely shaped a lot of my personal decisions growing up and choosing freedom as my number one core value. Knowing that there was a lack of freedom when I was growing up, even though my parents made us live in a little bubble. We were very blessed to not have anything, but still underlying, right? And being in my dad's warehouse, let me turn that off. Being in my dad's warehouse and it getting robbed at gunpoint, and my mom having to hide me in the bathroom when I was 4 or 5, something like that. So yeah, pretty scary.
Yeah, that definitely shapes who you become. That's for sure. So, and then I love, you've fused together so many different things in your business, but how about your day to day? I always just love to hear about what your hobbies are, what you love to geek out on or spend your time with.
So I have a 3.5-year-old. So a lot of my time goes to building. Today we built a roof for all her babies, which consisted of a penguin and a baby seal, and they started biting me. So that's what my
Oh,
mornings look like a lot. And then
that's
she
just
had to put a
awesome.
band-aid. And I love it, honestly. And I'm 43, so I had her like a couple months before I was 40. So I was able to really like have a full adult life before being a mom. I still am, but before I was like a huge traveler. And so that is actually my number one hobby is traveling and discovering the world and spending time in places that are rich with different cultures.
Yeah.
And now I get to play with baby seals and build forts. But I love that because I'm like a little kid inside anyways. And other than that, like I'm obsessed with business and how business works and the way that the mind works. So when I'm not hanging out with my daughter or cooking, I love to cook as well. And I'm like taking online courses, I'm watching inspirational self-development stuff. And I love to practice yoga and work out. So I have a full plate of how to stay healthy in my
Yes, it's a robust life, right? Absolutely. What are some of the favorite places that you've traveled to in all of your travels?
such a tough question. I love it when people ask me because I'm like, I can't tell you. Like,
I always say never ask me what my favorite is because you're going to get a list either way.
yeah, exactly. You're gonna get a list, but even this is not biased, but Peru is one of the coolest places to travel to just because it's so varied. Like you can go to the Amazon and I swam with like pink dolphins, or you could go up into the Andes where like the rich history of the Incas and the pre-Columbian and cultures have been, and you could go to
Right.
the coast and surf. So I always tell people like put Peru on your bucket list because you could probably spend like 3 months there and not finish.
Oh,
And
wow.
Bali, there's just something about Bali that is just so serene. Like people that are just so kind and spiritual. It's like Bali and Thailand are probably like, very close together. I actually lived in Thailand, well, lived for close to a little bit over a month. And that was really cool because I was able to really enjoy.
Yeah.
And I lived in Spain right when I graduated from university. And there's something about that Spanish culture that it's just they're so fun. Like Barcelona was just fun. So I love Europe. I don't know. See, like you can't ask me because I'm like, oh, I love this place. I love that place. I'll tell you a place that I loved, hated, and it was India. I love India like to my core, and it
Such
was so
extremes.
intense. It was so intense. Like I don't know. Like I'm glad I went, and my nervous system I don't think could handle it again. So not that I didn't like it. It was just like it took you into your five senses that way. And I'm like, right now, where I'm in my life, I'm like, I just want to cruise.
Right. Yeah. But there's something about the time in, was it Bali where you spent the month?
uh Thailand. I was like in Bali for
Thailand.
like a week. So yeah.
Yeah, there's something about, being somewhere in a month, like with Thailand, where like your nervous system can just kind of regulate and you can
Yeah.
just really take it in and enjoy it. I know
Yeah.
we were planning our vacations this summer. We planned one nervous system friendly vacation and one whirlwind vacation. But there's differences to both, that's for sure. I like
Yeah.
to be
Yeah.
able to like settle in, feel like I can unpack a little bit and a
Right.
home base. And sometimes the best way to accomplish everything that my family wants to do is just, a night in a hotel here, a night in a hotel there, a couple nights in an Airbnb. Here we go. We're seeing all the things. It's amazing,
Yeah.
but I need a vacation from that kind of vacation.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That I always say, like, create a little bit of cushion for when you come home, especially if it's long flights. Like
Mhm.
that just deregulates you so much.
Yeah,
So yeah, create a cushion. Like take a couple days to slowly ease back into your flow.
absolutely. Great advice. So, Ari, how have you like fused together all of these things that you're passionate about into your biz yogi business?
Yeah, great question. Thank you. So I'll tell you guys kind of the backstory so that it ties in.
Yeah, like how did you land here?
Yeah. So I went to I've always been very artistic, very bohemian, and extremely rebellious. So when I, finished high school, I went to all girls private Catholic high school, was top of my class. Like I'm very brainy, but I'm also like, I love to party and I love to go out. And I was like super social, all the things, like proper Catholic school. So I went into university and I come from a fairly like conservative family, and they were like, you kind of, go follow a good career. And a lot of my cousins are either like architects or lawyers. So I was like, well, I guess I need to pick one of those. And I was like, well, architects are probably the more creative out of the bunch. So I went into architecture school, realized that the pressure of having to draw a lot of straight lines and then like construction and engineering, and I was like, math, I was like, no, this is not my vibe. So I quit architecture school after my first year and went into art school. So I was like, well, I need to make a living. So I became a graphic designer. So that's my like trade. I'm a graphic designer. So immediately I went into the creative fields, worked with photographers, fashion photographers, sports all the photographers,
Yeah.
became an editor. And then the same thing, I was kind of freelancing, doing graphics, working in publishing, magazines, moved to Spain, worked in a publishing company there. And then I discovered yoga. So this all happened like within the first like 2 years of my college life. And the yoga awoke something inside of me
Yeah.
that I had never experienced. So I don't know if any of you guys here can remember your first yoga class or anytime you delved into a, spiritual practice. But that class marked a different side of me.
That was my
And
first experience with a workshop with EFT, very much so.
exactly, right? You're just like, what?
Yep. It was like all the aha moments, all the dots connected. And it was like, why have I not been part of this before?
Like in 90 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Complete pivot. Here we go.
So I went like, so I practicing in like 2001, took a break and then came back to it, just life. And when I came back to it, within that year, I started teaching. I was so dedicated. I would go to like 2 classes a day. I would just follow my teacher around. She was like an amazing mentor, Lauren. And one day I remember she called me and she's like, hey, are you coming to class tonight? And I was like, of course, like, hello. She was like, wait, you're teaching. And I was like, wait, I've like not done teacher training. She's like, no, you're fine. You're fine. Like, you're ready. Because again, I'm such a nerd that like in my spare time, I would like read yoga books. I had like the sequences like taped in my bathroom door. So I like knew how to say them in Sanskrit. Like I was, so she,
Certifications only mean so much.
right. So I taught this class, and that's when like my inner like teacher woke up, because I had never really been that person. I'm actually very shy, very introverted. And being in front of a room of like 30 something people directing was like, careful, careful world. And so right away, I then registered for teacher training because I wanted to know more. I wanted to delve deeper. And then what I like to say, I led these very parallel lives. I would work in advertising during the day. And then at night, I would teach a class or on the weekends.
Okay.
Shortly after that, I discovered what's called acro yoga, which is partner yoga, like acrobatics, therapeutics.
Very cool.
And did that teacher training. So I became the first teacher of acro yoga. It was 26 of us in the entire world. That's where my yoga career like open door took off, because since there weren't many of us, right, I held a very specific niche, which is why I said, I got to tell you this so I can tell you why I'm now a business coach. So I held this very specific niche, and I was getting invited to like Germany to teach, South Africa to teach, Europe to teach. So I started doing what I love, which was traveling and working. So because of that, I developed a really large and beautiful network of students, of colleagues. And, I taught for yoga journal conference for Wanderlust. It was really, really special. And came back to Miami, I was on a plane like once a month, literally. And then I was like, all right, I want to settle a little bit, opened a yoga studio here with a couple of friends. And it was one of the coolest studios. And I don't say that for just saying that, but like we won awards. We were like in the newspaper. People loved us. We're, again, very niche. We had acro, which we were the only. And that's when I really like awoke the business owner versus the freelancer.
Yeah.
And that was a huge shift. So like, I think I went from like teaching that first class, which like allowed me to step into the teacher role. But now here I was more in the community leader, the business owner, responsible for, staff of 20, for an overhead of like $18,000 a month and, and expenses. And I was like, I really like this whole business owner thing. And I was able to bring in a lot of my background, which was the marketing, the advertising, the creative. And we would lead teacher trainings, and I would always teach the business side. I loved it so much. It lit me up.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, all right, no, I got to do this. So that's when I wrote the book, which is like a business of yoga book. And I started like just mingling now with different types of women, with a lot of women business owners. And second, aha. And so now for 7 years, I've been really leading conscious, holistic entrepreneurs in their journey to having an online brand, having whether it's brick and mortar, but I like to focus online freedom, and helping people like you, literally like idea to creation.
Yeah.
There Absolutely. It is.
Love that. I love that. I love that. I love that. So how has this whole journey helped you to become more of who you want to be in this world?
And it's like this is like Ari version like 7.0. And it's always a new discovery, a new iteration. But I feel like the constant word is I just keep becoming more confident and more bold, because I take different risks. I put myself out there in a different light, a different way. And I think really like one word that I had never really explored was legacy. And like, what am I leaving to the world? I was very much just like living in a me world. Like, I want to do what I want to do, right? I'm very independent, but I never really expanded that towards impact. Yes, my students, of course, but like it kind of stayed there. And now I feel like with what I do and the fact that I have a daughter now, it really like makes me be on a bigger mission. So now I'm more mission driven than I've ever been before.
It does make a huge difference, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And we are always becoming that next version, right? So sure, version 8.0 will be here in no time, and so on and so forth. There's just always kind of new downloads and new up leveling and new things to figure out. So how do you help business owners to find their voice and like to find their goals so that they can achieve aligned success? I guess, what does working with you look like?
Yeah. So I like to take people from brand alignment to launch. That's kind of the trajectory. So whether you already have an established brand, I say this just as a professional, there's always something that can be refined.
Sure.
Right. So maybe it's you developed your brand 5 years ago, and yes, it's solid, it looks great, but maybe you're a little different. Or maybe your audience shifted a little, right? Like my audience shifted from like, I only focused on yoga teachers to actually, we just rebranded. So I changed the name of the business from Biz Yogi. Yes, it still exists, but I'm more Arianne Om right now. Because I've started working with professional women. Like I just onboarded a client who's an educator. And so see, we have to realign to who we are. So based on that, we look at your offer suite. Like, how are you making money? And I love helping my clients see the potential, to think a little bit bigger. I think I literally did a post on Instagram yesterday, and let me just read it because it's like 3 words, but I can't remember. Yeah, I dream big and manifest quickly. I think that's kind of my slogan. It's like, what is your big goal? Because I don't know if you resonate with this, but being in the holistic world, like money is not our biggest driver.
Right.
Money is my second biggest driver. Freedom is my first. But I would always edit myself. And I still do. I'd be like, oh, no, I can't charge that much. Or like, no, it's okay. I'll just do this for you without, right, charging more. And I'm like, well, I have a child who goes to, like, I have to pay a mortgage. I have to pay
Yeah.
school, like, they're, life. And how am I going to impact in a bigger way? Like, I don't have the freedom of time right now, not yet, to like go into like a mission, or go build a house with Habitats for Humanity, which is something I'd love to do, but I can donate.
Sure.
So if we think bigger of where potential lies, so I help a lot of my clients, like, instead of selling like single sessions one-on-one, like, how do we expand your service suite? How do we go from a low priced offer, whether that's $100 a session, to maybe like selling a $5,000 package? I teach people how to lead retreats. So I have a whole course called the Profitable Retreats. So if that's something that you've been like, oh, how do I lead a retreat? That's one of the things that I like to do. And then we work on social media, your content, right? Like how you're showing up online, because visibility is going to be one of the ways, right? Like visibility equates traffic.
Yep.
Like, people need to know who you are. And if
Yeah.
you're not exposing yourself, joining podcasts, right? Starting a YouTube channel, speaking at engagements, running your own events, how are people going to know who you are and then want to work with you? So,
Exactly. And this is why I love having somebody like you on here, because this is like how we are together in this, because like you have all the tools and the practical action oriented stuff. And I'm the one over here that's like, okay, visibility blocks, got to clear them. Okay. The money blocks, got to work on those like lower chakras and get you ready to have a strong container to manifest it into. All right. Like all the different blocks that are preventing people from actually getting success working with
yeah.
practical coaches that, no matter how like heart centered, soul centered, whatever, like those blocks will prevent like even the best advice from like getting put into action, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. And that's where I have my online course. So that's Lakshmi right there. Like, I bring her in. She's, the goddess of abundance and the goddess of wealth and wisdom. So it's like, we need tools that are, yes, very practical. Like, this is your launch strategy, or like, this is your social media strategy. This is your website. But it's like, who are we being? What are the fears that keep coming up? And that's where a lot of my yoga and like self-development training comes in. I bring in experts like you into my coaching containers and consulting, because like the more that we can, and that's why I like to call myself a holistic business coach, like we really need to look at the entire
Yeah,
container versus just the spreadsheet type thing,
absolutely.
right?
It was my biggest
And
frustration for the longest time. I would invest all of this money in different like coaching programs, courses. I had all the like right moves and right steps right there in front of me, and I couldn't do them. Like
mm,
literally just like wall. And figuring my way out of that is exactly how I created everything that I do right now, because it
right.
was such a shift. And I know so many people out there like feel like they're throwing money away every time they invest in something new, and people shouldn't have to feel that way when they're investing in themselves, because they are their greatest investment as long as
Yeah.
they know how to mobilize and make it work.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of, I think, like the main component, of my coaching is like speaking the unspoken and like
Mhm.
asking for what you need. I learned that from my coach. And I feel like sometimes we're like scared to ask,
Yeah.
or afraid of the judgment from that ask. So it's really powerful when we really step into that like aligned energetic state.
Mhm.
Really stems from, like you said, the chakras, right? Like, how, like yesterday, actually, in our coaching call, I was talking about the fear and how, yes, you want to like start this business and you want to be an entrepreneur, but I'm like, if you can't feed yourself correctly because, you're like back in college days eating ramen, like, no, like, have an income, figure that out, because your life is very much dependent upon stacking good energetic states so that we can figure out like, you know what? I hate social media. Let's say that that's one of your blocks. Like you keep saying, I hate social media. I hate social media. I hate social media. Well, find somebody to help you with social media.
Yeah.
Like pay them, pay them. But if you can't, right, like be secure, how are you going to pay them? So
Yeah.
these are the things that we really work through. It's like that mindset of growth, that mindset of expansion with practical and energetic tools.
Yeah. I love that. That's so, so important. Did you also have some beginnings in network marketing like I did?
Yeah. Yeah. doTERRA full power.
Yeah.
Actually, no, I started with a Ayurvedic product called Zri. This is like old school.
Oh yeah, I have so many in my history.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like Deepak Chopra was one of the creators. And man, can I tell you, thank you, network marketing, because it taught me how to sell.
Yes. That's the whole reason I bring that up is because having roots in that and having that be something that I was involved in from the time I was like 18
Oh, wow.
made a huge difference in my own confidence and also just the way that I strategize, the way that I build relationships,
Yeah.
so many different things. So I always like to give a shout out to that. I mean, some of my first high ticket clients were, leaders in network marketing and things like that. And it's so very powerful and like it still pays the even though I don't do anything with it anymore, it was definitely worth the build.
It really is. And actually, funny enough, yesterday, like one of my clients is like she's building her Herbalife business, and one of my other clients, she's a personal trainer, and I was like, you guys should connect. Like, I think there's a lot that you can like learn from here. And I was like, I actually said it. I was like, I feel like not every, but like I at some point, like just try it because these companies invest so much money into training. It's really powerful. And like
Yeah.
again, I really love doTERRA because it was like even the slogan was like we're not a oils company, we're a self-development company. And it really was like
Yeah.
I loved being there.
I always loved all the different like summits and things where they'd bring in all the
Yeah,
speakers and things, like getting to see like Gary Vee and stuff like that, and all sorts of speakers over the years that were just really powerful and changed
super
my
inspirational.
outlook. Very
Yeah.
inspirational.
Oh, I'm
So
so glad you brought that up.
yeah, I think it's a common thread that I see very often in people that are successful later, that they've like at least given it a try at some point,
Right.
whether or not they actually like built it into anything substantial or not. It's usually a really nice foundation
Yeah.
for doing different, bigger, more solo things later on. And
Oh,
still
for
like with
sure.
mine, it still runs in the background. Still, I still take people on if they're interested.
Yeah.
And
Which one are you affiliated with?
Team Beachbody, or I guess it's Body now.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, Body.
Oh,
Um, so it's changed since I kind of stepped away a little bit, but
okay. Yeah. So great story. I led a retreat to Costa Rica. It was like New Year's 2014.
okay.
And that was like a huge retreat for me because my now husband, we had just started dating and we were getting serious. And I was like, if this needs to go further, you need to travel with me. Let's see if we can hang. So he came to my New Year's retreat in Costa Rica, and that's where we like professed our love to each other. But one of my participants, Amy, she had just started Beachbody or Body, whatever, and she was going through a divorce, like hated her job. And on that retreat, she decided that she was going to quit her job and like step fully into. Now she's like multiple six figures with the company, like huge leader, like so proud of her.
Which Amy is it?
Amy, oh my God.
Mashburn?
No,
No,
I'll tell you. I'll tell you in a minute.
no worries. I just,
Last names and me are like,
yeah,
not
me too. It's not really that important, but it's great
Coppola.
here. What was it?
Coppola.
Okay, awesome. Very
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, and it's so nice when we can like lift each other up through that journey. Very, very cool. So what's the dream for you? Like what's the goal for down the road a little bit? You're
So
going to be
many.
building those houses with Habitat for Humanity, and what else is Ari going to be doing down the road?
Um, so I've always said that I want to move to Costa Rica. So and it's funny because now, literally, I was talking to my husband about it. I was like, why don't we just go? Because we both work from home now, like, and I'm like, why don't we just go? Why don't we just go? And then I was like, okay, how about we just spend like a summer? Because like we've been there so many times, and I was like, oh my God, to leave. Because again, I like to travel. So the place in Costa Rica we really love is called Santa Teresa, which is like 5 hour drive from the airport. Or like you could jump on a puddle jumper, but it's like a mission. It's like I was like,
Gotta work
I
to
don't
get
want to
there.
have to. I was like, how about we just go spend a summer? But like that's literally my dream is to have more location independence and be able to make sure that my daughter is like being cared for school wise, like she's learning, right? So having that flexibility to either homeschool, which I personally do not want to be the teacher of the homeschooling.
Yeah.
So here, okay, so you guys help me manifest.
Having the kids at home for the pandemic was enough for me. And I wasn't even actually teaching them. They were doing it virtually, but I still had to step in and it was more than I wanted to do.
Right. Like the other day, I was like, this is an E, Solon. E for elephant. We've gone over it like 1,000. And I was like, oh my God, she's 3 stuff. But I would like to have a woman or man, whoever that travels with us that can be in charge of her learning and like almost like nanny slash, right? So I want to have that person, trusted advisor, so that we can be 3 months in Costa Rica and then like hang out in like the mountains of North Carolina or Colorado and then come back to Miami and like see the family and not have to worry about like pulling her in and out of school and letting the world be a little bit of her teacher while I work because I love working. That's the thing. Like I love to work. Like
Me too.
it's 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 something that has always been a big I think like it fills me up emotionally that I'm being productive and like I'm like a busybody. I can't stay still anyways. So I rather just work doing something. But that's my dream, right? That's my dream. And now, so my husband had a job for many years that he didn't like, and I say a job because he didn't like it, right? He has a job now that he actually enjoys. He's in sales, but the different kind of sales. So now we're like, finally, like we have, like we're not chained to Miami because Miami's gotten quite like I love my city, but it's gotten crazy. Like
Yeah, we were just down there a month or so ago. We used to live there for a couple of years. So that was like back in like 2005 to 2008.
so you know how much it changed.
2006, 2008. Yeah, it definitely for sure. It's more
So
hectic than before. I still love it, but I was glad to be a visitor and not actually a resident.
exactly. So I want to be able to like a lot of my businesses here. My network here is like massive. So like I want to be able to like pop in and out. So that's my dream. That's my vision. I would like to manifest that within the next at least like 24 months. I know we could probably take summer and little things like this, but yeah, within the next like 24 months,
Yeah.
I would like to have before Solène also gets a little bit older, because I know when she's like 9,
I was gonna say, do it while she's young because it's so easy right now. Like,
so
there's not
easy. Like
any
she's
like
not a,
major subjects they're missing out on and stuff like that. It's very
or
easy
being
to
attached
supplement
to like
it.
a core group of friends,
Yes.
that's so important. Like we have your friends, I'm still friends with my friends from when I was 9.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's where I am. And then also, the yoga expo, we want to grow it. I want to have a third city. Right now we're bi-coastal, Fort Lauderdale and Los Angeles, but I would like to do it either like Northeast, like New Jersey area-ish,
Yeah, come up
or
my way so I can come visit you.
yeah, no, that's the goal. And we have some potential out there, but it's about again bringing more opportunity, more impact, and just maintaining that momentum.
That's awesome. So here's a question that I've been asking because obviously I'm writing a book right now and it's my first, and you're already an author. So, what are your best tips or suggestions for people who are wanting to bring a book into this world? Whether it's a marketing tip or a writing tip or whatever else. Spill the tea.
So I found it so much easier to record my voice and my thoughts, get them transcribed, and then sit down and edit.
Yes, I did that
Because
too.
the thought of like staring at a blank paper, whether like obviously your hand gets tired. So that was like, oh my God, after 3 pages, I was like, all right, this is not sustainable.
The
So
wrist
typing
cramps
was
are real.
obviously much easier. Google Voice is also awesome. So write down your chapters. That's what I always like. That's how I started. I was like, let me just write down my chapters to have a skeleton, and then I can start filling in those chapters.
Yeah.
Then I would record and then take time to sit and edit. So that was the first thing.
Do you happen to be
Now,
an ADHD brain also?
I like to call myself creative.
Okay.
Um, and I think I've always been this way, but I took a test and I'm like far from, I don't know. I was like, I had a client, she specializes in that. And I was like, Erica, like, I think I'm ADHD. She's like, take the test. And I was like, oh. And the test was like, no, you're not. And I'm like, okay, I'm just creative. So
Absolutely. There's just so many similarities in the things that you're suggesting to like what works for me as a neurodivergent ADHD brain and kind of the things that I've implemented.
yeah. So no, I believe there's a lot of similarities, but I've learned a lot about ADHD, and I think like I don't have a lot of the emotional components so I think maybe my way of thinking has that tendency, but not a lot of the other stuff. So, but maybe, yeah, the ADHD brain part, maybe definitely.
Maybe.
And then in
So
terms of
recording and transcribing, a big, awesome tip that definitely is
huge,
helpful. I can attest to that.
huge. So also like when I wrote my first book, because I now have 2 books, I was a multi-author book. Ask yourself, what's the purpose of the book, right? Because there's people who are writers. Like I am a writer and they write, like sagas and many books, and they're authors. Like that's their job. Now, if you're writing this book to help your business grow, then, right, it has to lead people into the next logical step.
Right.
And that's where you need to almost work backwards. Like I would bring in my dry erase, but so far away right now. Think, and for those of you guys who are listening, it wouldn't really matter anyways. So
Do a video version, but yeah, true.
imagine, right? You have your core offers, like how you make money. The book has to at some point be connected to that. So
Yes.
if your book is to grow your business, it has to be directly related, and you have to give people that opportunity in the book to maybe like take an action. Like what I did in my Abundant Yogi book was to send people to a private website where they got access. And I think I mentioned this to you guys in the workshop, right? Where they got access to like special worksheets, downloadables, where I also got their name and email. Because a book by itself can't do the heavy lifting of audience building.
Yeah.
It serves as credibility. Like I'm a, best-selling author. Great. But if nobody can then follow the breadcrumbs into, maybe you have your Facebook community, or maybe you have your Instagram community, you have your email list, right? That's really important.
Make it applicable.
Yeah. And do it throughout the chapters, not just in the back, like, oh, hey, I'm done. Here's my QR code. Because
yes. Awesome tips. I appreciate that. So, where can listeners find you if they want to learn more about what you do and how to do it with you?
absolutely. So, is it okay? I can also give you a couple of links for the show notes.
Great.
For you. Absolutely.
Anything that you mention here, I'll make sure is in the show notes, and anything additional,
Thank you.
I can also make sure is in there. So, whatever you'd like to share.
Yes. My Instagram, I hang out there a lot. And so it's ari.biz with a z.coach. So you can please come follow me there, come say hi, send me a message. I love connecting with people. Like I really use social media as a way to connect, not just to post. Yes, and I post hopefully helpful stuff. And so come on Instagram. I also have a Facebook group called Grow Your holistic business community. I'm the worst. It's going to be in the show notes, but I have a Facebook group if you're a Facebooker. And yeah, I always have I have an upcoming boot camp. We have the yoga expo in LA, January 20th. So as long as you pop into my community and we connect, and if you're interested in not just working with me, but attending my events and things like this, then we'll just start that pipeline from there.
Amazing. Are there any final thoughts that you'd like to leave with the listeners today?
Follow your dreams, right? Don't let the how part get you stuck. Oh, I don't know how to do it, or just really at least start. One of my top strengths is actually my number one strength is actionable. Mm-hmm. So create that spark, because from that spark, then you have a kindling, and then you can make a fire, and then do whatever you need to do with the fire. Don't let it get out of hand, of course. But start. So even if it's not business, right? Even if it's a personal thing, that you want to lose weight, or maybe that you want to start a meditation practice, take 30 seconds to close your eyes and be in stillness. That will create the initial change. Yeah. And so I had I had my first therapy appointment. I was I should probably talk to a therapist. I've gone through so much stuff.
Everybody should talk to a therapist.
Right. So I did. And, we're working through some stuff, personal stuff. And I was well, should I do this thing that's going to make the biggest difference? She's no, do the opposite. Do the thing that's going to make the smallest difference, because that's going to be the gentlest way to do it. And I was I really like that. Because I'm so right. I'm very driven. She's do the opposite. See how that feels. And that's almost what I want to tell you guys. It's what's the smallest little tiniest thing that you could do that's just so subtle that you can make that initial shift.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that tip, especially as somebody who's also driven and, resonates with high functioning anxiety and all those things that feel like they're propelling you and making a positive difference, and yet are also hurting you at the same time. Those small changes. I always say slow is the new fast. We have to slow down. And that's where all the traction and all the good stuff, the pleasure, everything can kind of seep in and become part of the experience. So yeah, I love that advice, Ari. Everybody go build your fires, stoke them, and follow those dreams. And thank you so much for being here, sharing all these amazing nuggets with us. And thank you all for listening.
Thank you, Theresa.
Thanks for spending some of your precious time with me today. If you loved this episode, please leave a review or simply share it with someone else who would get great benefit from it too. If you share on social media, please tag me so I can personally connect and thank you. Until next time, keep taking bold and brave steps towards becoming more of who you want to be in this world. You are capable, you are worthy, and you are enough. And if your inner critic is still trying to argue with those facts, hit me up. We've got work to do.